Okay, welcome. This is part 2 of my talk with my cuz, Susan Heinrich, and we had some noise issues before, but I'm hoping they are all sorted out and that Susan will find her way on here. So if you watched our first part, we talked about what happened when Susan hit her mid-40s and stuff started to really shift in how she prioritized, how she wanted to stand for having her own life inside of motherhood and marriage, and we get into like lots of different stuff. And so on part two, we're going to talk about the 5 things that Susan learned from that time period. Because when I talked to Susan, I had read all this stuff about menopause and about how women can really step into this fierceness in menopause. And Susan knows more about that than I do. Like, she knows there's a hormone that is like the caring hormone. I might not get this right, so we'll ask Susan to clarify. That actually just stops in menopause or starts to go away. And so you start caring less, which just sounds so great to me. And so my question to Susan was, what can we learn from, invite group members to watch. Sorry, this is so funny. Like, we're all learning. My question is, what can we learn that we can do in our lives right now? We don't have to wait for menopause to come. Because what if it doesn't come for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years and we really want to step into our fierceness now? So today Susan's going to talk about the 5 things that she is really cultivating right now, and things that she learned from that period, and also maybe what she would have given herself permission to do before without waiting. So let me just, okay. Yeah, Susan can be in my video. Adding. Connecting. Oh, I still hear that scratchy sound, Susan.
Was it happening even before I joined?
No. So is there anything that you can change about your sound situation?
So I just checked that I was on our regular Wi-Fi network. I can try headphones and see if that makes a difference.
I will wait here. I will improv. We're just waiting for Susan to come back with some headphones because the sound is so scratchy. And let's see if we can. I love how you're wearing this gorgeous dress.
I put it on in honor of our attitude. I
love it, and I also wanted to attitude it up, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, that's okay. I bought this dress. I have nowhere to wear it, so I'm wearing it on a Facebook Live.
I love it. That is so 2020.
Totally. So now the only thing I have to see. Let me just plug in my headphones. Yeah. I wondered if maybe I had the volume too high. Let's see if it exists. Okay.
Ooh, some scratchiness just went away.
Okay.
It sounds good. That sounds good.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
Oh, It's like just stepping into a soothing hot bath. Yeah, that's so nice.
We could all use more of those, so I'm glad.
Okay, yes, thank you for dressing up in that dress.
Perfect. Oh, you are so welcome.
I love it.
I'm glad to have a reason to do it.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so this is what I wanted to ask you, because I was reading this article today before we get started, and I did a little intro while I was waiting for you.
Great.
I want to know, yes, you're welcome. I want to know the healthiest thing that you are doing to deal with a pandemic right now, And I also want to know the unhealthiest thing. So maybe like the guilty pleasure thing, or you know how we're all
Oh
supposed to
my
be
gosh.
meditating and exercising, right? These are like
Totally.
these
And
are like all the healthy things of dealing with stress. And I know lots of us are doing those. And I also know we're doing other things.
so are you looking for an original answer? Because I feel like both of mine are just pandemic cliche. Well, no, the negative one.
Yeah.
But your cousin Sean, my husband, by the way, is meditating. He's excellent at that. He meditates every
What
day.
a
It
show
helps
off.
him a lot. I know he really is.
Yeah.
He's such an overachiever, that dude.
He is.
Anyway, um, okay, so I mean, for me, it's exercise.
Yeah.
It has always been exercise. Exercise has saved me
Yes.
through my life.
Yes.
My older son had some pretty significant health problems, probably 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And exercise for months. He had a health issue that went undiagnosed. Doctor after doctor had
Mm.
no idea what was going on. He was in chronic pain. The
Uh,
stress was just like unbelievable.
yes.
And exercise just saved me, and it has again and again. For I like
Yep.
exercising. I'm fortunate. I just got into a habit of it early on, and I still do it. And so the pandemic, it's been essential. But actually, for a while, I wasn't doing it because I couldn't go to the gym anymore. I got
Yeah.
out of the habit,
Yeah.
and I really felt it.
Yeah.
So I had to figure out how to adapt that to a home exercise, which is what I do. And
Got
I
it.
miss going to the
Yeah.
gym and just being away from the house and having that change of scene.
Yeah.
But we bought an exercise bike. I exercise. Yeah, I need it. I need to get my heart rate up. Walks aren't enough for me.
Yep.
I like
Got it.
walks, but they're different.
Yeah.
So anyway, exercise. And then I definitely have been drinking too much wine as a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
100% on the,
100%. Yeah.
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 Like, yeah, early on it was right. Because I used to drink too much wine. And then I had gotten onto a better pattern with that, where I
Yeah.
pretty much tried to just keep it to the
Good
weekend.
for you.
Um, but no, not so good for me now. I
Yeah.
mean, Sean, again, with the overachieving, but he'll be like, is it Thursday yet? And then it's like, well, it's Wednesday. That's close enough to
Wednesday,
Thursday.
which could be Thursday somewhere,
Wednesday,
obviously.
Wednesday's definitely the new Friday during the pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about
Okay.
you?
That's
I want to hear
awesome.
yours.
Yeah. So I feel like so what are the healthy things? I have been doing it in most, so not the whole thing, but I really found that if I didn't have time on my own in the morning before everybody woke up, I could not,
Mm-hmm.
I just could not face the day in the same way. So that's been something that's doing, and in there I've kind of shifted what I've done. Right now I'm doing meditation and breath work. Before I was doing incantations and some business work, and so it kind of shifts depending on what I need in any moment. But I've been doing that regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say my unhealthy
Good for
ones.
you. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I love it. It saves my life. Um, is definitely drinking. Like so Ryan and I are really into Negronis.
Oh, love
So
Negronis.
Negronis come out, they come out early. They come out 5:30, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I feel like Negronis are the thing that you should have one cocktail of, like, before dinner, but sometimes we have
Right.
two, so that's happening.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm watching a lot of Netflix. You know
Mm-hmm.
what? Okay, there's one blog that you wrote about how you felt like a teenager, or maybe Sean said you were like a teenager with your headphones on all
Yes,
the
with my
time.
headphones on all the time, right?
I am a teenager. I put my AirPods in, even when everyone's in the kitchen, and I'm
Yeah,
listening to a podcast or I'm watching like Indiana Jones on Netflix, and all I want to do is be in my own world.
totally.
Yeah.
That is a fantastic thing for women,
Yeah.
I think, to have noise canceling headphones
Mm.
when you want to focus on something, have a break,
Yeah.
whatever. Either your kids are old enough you've just left them, or your significant other has been left in charge, so you can have your own time. It's very hard to do that when you can hear
Uh,
all the stuff going on in the
yeah.
background.
Yeah.
Yeah, my beats that go all the way over my ears
Love
are
it.
my best friend.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love it. And I just put them on and want to tune out the world. I've actually done it when I've been in the car with Sean. He's listening to a book. I'm like, I'm not interested in your book, and I'll put on my
Oh,
headphones and
yeah.
he's offended, but oh
Yeah.
well.
You know what? I mean, one thing, especially for moms with young kids, I would say, one thing that we're not getting a lot of is quiet, peace and quiet,
Mm,
especially the first, like from March till September, right? When the kids
mm-hmm.
were home all the time. There's something I feel like my nervous system is kind of like a bit twitchy because it's just constant. There's not enough time alone. There's not enough
Right.
quiet for it to settle down.
Absolutely.
So I love the idea of escaping, like finding little ways to escape in in the home,
Yeah.
right? And I love that. Yeah, I
Right.
actually
Right.
now you've inspired me to get one of those like full, like just in my own world.
Totally.
Nobody
Where
is
are they?
here.
Usually they're right here. I thought maybe they were on my desk. Oh, they are.
Oh,
Hang
they
on a
are
moment.
in your
I'll
emergencies.
demonstrate
Self-care
for you.
tools.
This is often me at home.
Oh my God.
Just like,
Yeah,
sorry,
I
I can't
can't. I
hear
can't.
you. Just
Oh yeah,
right. And
yeah,
and for me, music is amazing. I
yeah,
love podcasts,
yeah,
but when I'm feeling low energy, down, even when I don't feel like exercising, but I know I really need
yeah,
it, I'll put on my like gym upbeat
yeah,
playlist, and that is often enough shift
yeah,
to get me into that feeling of wanting to
yeah,
move. I know you do that with dancing,
yeah.
which is so fabulous. Like, or even dancing,
Just
right?
yeah,
Sometimes putting on your headphones,
yeah,
great music, dancing around your bedroom when everyone else is driving you
yeah.
crazy is good medicine, is
Uh,
good therapy.
so good. It's so good. What are your like what's your hot jams on your I have to exercise now playlist?
Oh
What
my
fires you up?
gosh, hot jams. It's a total mix.
Yeah,
I've got some good classic, 80s on there because
yeah,
I grew up in the 80s.
yeah,
And then I have two teen boys who listen to rap and hip hop, so
yeah,
they'll have a song on and I'll like it. I'll Shazam it,
yeah.
add it to my
Shazam.
playlist.
Yeah, love
So
it.
there's a little bit of there's a little I've got over 100 songs on there. There's a lot.
Yeah.
I could share it with you if
Okay.
you
I
want.
would
Are you on
love
Spotify?
that. Yeah. I am. I am. I am on Spotify. Yeah,
Okay.
I would love that because I'm always looking
Um,
for new music. So I dig
I
it.
know, I know. I get tired of it. Yes, I'll
Yeah.
do that. I'll
Yeah.
share that with you.
Okay, thank you for sharing because I think it's really there's so much around right now about all the great stuff that we could be should be doing and that's all important.
Mm,
And I also think it's really important for us to just share the other things that we're doing because we're covering all the keys. And some days there's more exercise and meditation, some days there's more drinking. That's just what it is right now. No shame, no judgment, no guilt. That's just what
totally.
it is. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And sometimes there's a sense of optimism.
Yep.
And then sometimes there's just a flatness. Yesterday, I was so flat.
Yeah.
I could not figure out why. I was not motivated.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do my work. I didn't want to do anything. I really just wanted to get into bed and watch Netflix.
Yeah.
And, I think that's pretty normal and okay right now. And
Yeah.
if we can just accept that this is an emotional roller coaster, a highly stressful, unusual time,
Totally.
and do, sort of listen to ourselves and do what we need to do,
Yep.
hopefully.
And also I think there's
Hmm.
something about this. I've been in I've been in a business mastermind for a while, which I would say has started just as the pandemic started. It was like crazy, perfect, beautiful timing. And it's been very the flavor of the masculine. So like crushing it every day, um, momentum all the time,
Mm,
keep on track, keep going, like this very linear, productive, aggressive. And I
hmm.
have loved it because I came out of a very feminine space, which I've been in like for the last 7 years. And in that model, there is no space for the moments that when we do need to rest and recover. It's kind of this unreal expectation
Right.
of the human body being a machine that never needs rest,
Hmm.
never needs solitude, never needs contemplation time, never needs to take a
Right.
step back and celebrate or digest or think. It's this constant. So I
Hmm.
love that you said that. There's just days when it's like it's Netflix time and napping. Yeah,
Absolutely. Well, yeah, and integrating those more feminine aspects
yeah,
of a way of being into a work routine and a work sort of yeah, work routine, I think is really helpful, right?
yeah.
Because you can't be in fight or flight all the time.
No, you can't. And yeah,
Also,
Go ahead.
So I think you're right. No, I was going to say, yeah, absolutely. I think it's finding the balance between those two, which is the sweet spot,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
Drilling down, focusing productivity, and then pulling back, bigger picture, thoughtfulness, and also finding joy in work. I mean, one of the things that I've realized with my projects, one of them has been a book I've been trying to write for 8 years, is it was just starting to cause me so much. It was just unpleasant when I was working on it,
Yeah.
and I had to figure out either to set it aside
Yeah.
and not do it anymore because it wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
Some things you have to do even though they're unpleasant, but when it's a project that's ongoing, that is really a labor of love,
Yeah.
when you've lost the joy in it, it's time to sort of rethink
Mm.
why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And so I think we spend so much time working. Hopefully we can find some joy in it as well and not just be productive.
Yeah. I love that. And I think I've been talking to some women entrepreneurs, talking about how so many of the business models are, I would say, designed for the masculine, like designed for the world where you get to go to an office and you're alone and you don't have necessarily the caretaking, the domestic responsibilities. So of course you can like crush it every day and you can separate
Yeah.
family from work. And it's like designed for that male entrepreneur, knowing that there's so many variations and gray areas between, men and women and masculine and feminine, all that stuff. And I was saying, yeah, we just need a new model because women, especially moms, we're used to being burnt out. Like we, especially in we could spend the first 10 years of intense mothering feeling exhausted and depleted. Like
Yeah.
that model does not work for us because we've come from it and we know what it feels like and we're not interested. So we do need a model that is about being productive, but also making sure that there's joy there. Because if there isn't joy there, like I either got to find my joy again about it or dump it and move on to something else.
Right.
And also having moments of rest and recover, having moments where I know that something is going to come up with a child that is going to take my heart energy and take my mental energy. And no, I'm not going to be 110% at work because I am now dealing with something else that requires time and energy and attention, right? So I think there needs to be also this huge shift in working, and women I think will lead the charge on that. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a good segue to our sort of topic for
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. Should we get to our topic?
Well, we don't have to, but that was a great segue.
Yeah, it was.
Finding a new way to be, finding
Yeah.
joy, finding, not living the first 10 years of family life,
Yeah.
feeling exhausted, depleted, and ultimately unhappy as a
Right.
result of that.
Right. And having that,
Yeah, because no, go ahead.
well, having that question of, oh, wait, this is supposed to be, and we talked about this in part one, this is supposed to be a joyful time, right? Having that expectation of like what you've been told or what you've imagined motherhood to be like. And then you're like, oh, actually, this is not joyful. This is not all these beautiful, caring, loving snapshot moments of me and my child. This is hard. This is challenging. This is isolating. This is depressing. This is depleting. This is exhausting. This is all the stuff, right? Yeah. So, yeah, don't know where to go from that. So I'll just pass it on
Well,
to
let
you.
me just, before we start that, can I
Yeah.
just say one thing that I was thinking while you were saying that?
Yeah.
I just heard this. I think it was Brene Brown, and she said, we have so many words for negative emotions.
Yeah.
And not nearly as many for positive emotions. And you just listed all of those things that we often feel as women with families.
Yeah.
Exhausted, depleted, stressed, strained, unhappy, angry, disillusioned. Like you can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Try and come up with an equal number of positive emotions for the ways that you can feel. I thought that was fascinating. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just a little aside.
Yeah.
But I think it's important because we know that the words that we use as we describe things in our own head, right? Our own little monologue of what's going on and the words that we're using to describe it. Not that we aren't feeling those emotions, but I think we're really good at, we've definitely tapped into all the negative ones that we can feel.
Yeah.
But that is a good segue for what we were going to talk about today, because you and I both agreed that all of these concepts are great, but it's super helpful to have specific things that you can sort of take away.
That's right.
To think about how you can integrate or think about possibly does it make sense to you? Is it something that resonates with you? Is it something you could integrate into your life? So
Yeah.
to that end, I started thinking about that,
Yeah.
and I came up with a list of things that I'm doing now in midlife. I'm 53, that I could have started doing sooner, and I wish I had started doing
Love
sooner.
it.
I had wish I
Love
had
it.
started when my kids were young, and I was absolutely in the throes of exhausted, depleted, resentful, a
Yep.
lot of things. One of the things that I mentioned last time was I was not enough of an advocate for what I needed. And my husband is super supportive, wonderful person. But, we all know even with a super supportive spouse, it can be really difficult to say all the things that you need.
That's right.
And I never wanted to rock the boat. So I was not good at that. So anyway, these are some things that I think some changes happen in midlife which sort of precipitate all of these things,
Yeah.
or not all of them, but some of them. But I don't think you have to wait for midlife to I'll use the term come home to yourself, which is not my term, but I love that. It's actually from this book I have here. I have a little
Oh,
prop. I
Marion.
love this book,
Oh no. Okay.
Christian
Yeah.
Northrup, Wisdom of Menopause.
Yeah.
What I love about this book is she talks about not just the physical elements and sides of menopause, but the emotional, that it's a huge emotional upheaval.
Yeah.
And so one of the that can be challenging, and it was challenging for me. I've written about that. But one of the positives that comes out of the emotional upheaval is it really is it can kickstart a period of change.
Right.
Okay, and so what we want to talk about here is how can you kickstart those kinds of changes without waiting for sort of a lot of the hormonal and other things that
That's right.
help to make it happen in midlife. Okay,
Yeah.
so number one, and we did touch on this last time, and I'll call it becomes friend.
Mm-hmm.
And that there's a lot of different things that go into that, but the specific one for me that has been most significant is changing the narrative, what I'm telling myself, and not allowing myself a constant barrage of negative and critical thoughts.
Yep.
So what I've tried to do is get into a new habit that as soon as I see I recognize a negative thought starting,
Yeah.
like, you're a bad mom, you're not doing this well enough, I'll stop myself, I'll question it. And I think a litmus test for that one is this something that you would say to a friend? Is this something you would say to Sophie?
Right.
Right?
Right. Right.
If she said, I'm feeling like I'm not a good enough, whatever.
Would
I
you say,
mean,
yes, Sophie, you are a bad mom?
you're right. Would you say this to your friend,
Yeah.
your cousin, your sister?
Yeah.
And if you wouldn't say it to them, it's why are we saying it to ourselves?
Yep. Yep.
Not that there's not a place for reflection, of course, but I'm talking about really negative thoughts that are of no use to us.
That's
They
right.
don't serve us.
That's right.
And they're really a bad habit more than anything else.
Yeah.
Right? They're a habit where we get triggered by something.
Yep.
And we're triggered all day long by all sorts of things. We get triggered, and that sets us into this stream of negative thoughts that aren't helpful, aren't productive, and just make us feel worse.
Yeah.
And they're usually a downward spiral into, and why did I,
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's
like they can get quickly something
right.
that something can quickly get spiral and get out of control.
Oh, for sure.
So I think when we can decide we are going to love ourselves and be our own best friend and not speak to ourselves in a way we wouldn't speak to our friends.
Yeah.
That
Huge.
That has huge. Okay.
So
that is number one.
And let me ask you
Yeah,
this.
go ahead.
So you're thinking, and then, I mean, first of all, just the awareness takes a long time, right? Because it's like we just have these thought patterns.
Right.
So you practice becoming aware, and then you get pretty good at becoming aware. And as soon as you recognize that there's a thought that's saying, Susan, you really should be working more on this, then what do you do in that moment when you recognize that thought? Do you replace it? What do you do with it?
Well, first of all, I question it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like, where did that come from? And then, so realizing what triggered it is helpful.
Yeah.
And then I question it, and then I'll sort of question where it came from, and then I'll question, is it true? And then I will try and say to myself something that I would say to a friend. Yes, of course you haven't been able to work on your book in the last month, but look at all the things that you have been doing.
Yeah, great.
And so I think it's speaking to yourself like you would speak to a friend.
Yeah.
Really, that sort of putting it in perspective, reminding yourself of all the things you're doing, and then forgiving yourself that you're not a robot, you're not perfect.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it can also be constructive. Okay, well, why haven't you been working on your book? Like, is there something that needs to change, right?
Yeah.
But that's different than just spiraling into a self-critical, right?
Yeah.
So it's okay to then say, well, why is this going on? What triggered it? What else is going on in my life? Do I need to make a change? That's constructive.
Mm-hmm.
Letting yourself spiral downward into just a barrage of negative thoughts is not constructive.
Yeah.
So I think looking at it with a sort of, and that's where meditation comes in, actually. That's why I think that skill's really helpful in everyday life. I'm not a big meditator, but I have become more aware of separating myself from my
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah.
So there's me and there's my thoughts. And like they call it the monkey brain, right? My
Yeah.
thoughts are going to be going all day long. Some of them are negative, a lot of them are negative. Recognizing that there's me, those are my thoughts. Okay, I can sort of step back and look at those thoughts in a more sort of constructive way
Mm-hmm.
rather than just letting myself, be consumed by them.
Yeah.
So I think, and that is a skill, like so many of these things, right?
Totally.
Like you said, it's going to take
Yeah.
practice. The first thing is being aware of them,
Yeah.
right? Just every time, just being aware. Wow, where did that come
Yeah.
from? Even if you don't want to take the time to sort of examine at that point, but just being aware that it started and saying, you know what, I don't need to do that right now.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe there's something that you can I don't physically do something. Maybe for some people it's stopping and taking 5 deep breaths. Maybe it's getting on the floor and stretching for 5 minutes to get out of your head.
Yeah.
I will say for me, it goes back to exercise. When I'm too much in my head and start spiraling, usually I realize I need to exercise.
Got
It's
it.
the number one thing that helps me, or physical, or dancing.
Yep.
Going for a walk, I feel like physically moving our bodies
Huge.
really helpful
Yep.
in getting out of our heads.
That's right.
So,
I
yeah,
love it. Kind of
yeah,
it's a release. It's like a decluttering somehow. Yeah. Um,
absolutely.
okay, that's
And
amazing.
that's
Number
something
one.
everyone, I mean, even kids, this is something we can teach kids,
Yep.
right? I talked to my 17-year-old about not being self-critical, questioning. You're
Yeah.
telling yourself something. Is that actually true?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you need to question that. And so this is not just for moms. This is for everyone.
Yeah.
It's a fabulous skill. And it's something that I think we could teach our kids as well.
Absolutely. I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, number two.
Okay. Number two. So number two, I'm calling, I have to look at my notes. Number two, I'm calling be willing to say no, right?
Yes.
As women, we take care of everyone. We are so good at saying yes, nurturing everyone, and that's wonderful and lovely. The reality is there will never be enough time and energy to do all of the things that we want to do. And I love what you said, Sophie. You were talking recently about you were reflecting on why.
Mm.
Why is there always so much that we're trying to do? And it's because as women we want to be helpful. We want to take care of people. We
Yep.
want to challenge ourselves and grow and learn.
Yep.
We want to have all the female friendships
Yep.
and
Yep.
nurture those. And right, like there's so much that we want,
Yep.
and that is fabulous. But when we have young children, we cannot possibly do all of it at the same time. And I love the phrase, you can have everything, but you can't have it all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if we try and do everything that we would ideally like to do if we didn't have kids, it's just a recipe for unhappiness, stress, overwhelm.
Yep.
And so recognizing that we're at a stage of life where there are a lot of demands on us. It won't be like this forever. And that means we have to be super choosy about what we say no to and what we say yes to.
Yep.
And again, I think this is a skill that takes time, saying no and just questioning, is that really something that I need or want to do? Or where is that coming from? Like, it's Christmas right now. There's so many extra little things that we often do at Christmas time.
Yes.
Being part of a cookie exchange or who knows, whatever it is.
Yep.
So I think we need to get better at saying no. And believe me, that is something that happens at midlife in a big way.
Yeah.
You get much better at saying no.
Yeah. Do you have a certain phrase that you use? That is like, do you have a script where you're like, no, thank you so much for asking. I just don't have the capacity right now. Or, well, how do you say no?
I think for me, Yeah, it's a good question. It depends who it is,
Yeah.
right? And so with my family, I made it very clear to them that I needed to make some changes and start prioritizing my own interests more. And so one of the things that I gave up for mid, I like to say I gave it up for midlife is gardening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so my thing was, I don't do that anymore. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Love
What
it.
about that? No, I don't garden anymore. Sorry. Right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. Yeah.
and so it was either the garden was just going to go to hell, and that was fine. I mean, I was okay with that,
Yeah.
you know, or the basics, whatever.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because my husband Sean ended up getting interested in gardening, and so he started gardening more, and now he really likes it. But
Yeah.
I always did all the gardening, and now I do a little bit again. But I literally was like, I am not gardening anymore. It is sucking all my time. It is a waste. Who
Yeah.
cares? You know. And so with him, it was like, I don't do that anymore. And you know that we've had this discussion. With a friend, it will be usually, you know, sometimes I'll just make an excuse. Like I just took on a big project, which I did. I mean, I'm trying to create my own things with my own project.
Yeah.
To say
Yeah.
I just took on a big project, which I'm prioritizing. So I'm just not going to do that this year.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Yes.
Love
Or
that.
I try, and you know what? I also try when it's with other women, which it most often is. So, for example, our high school does a huge project for event for graduating seniors, so grade 12
Yeah.
students, called After Prom, where we put on this gigantic party that goes from midnight to 4 in the morning
Nice.
after the prom because it corrals them all at the school. It keeps them safe.
Yep.
I did it when my older son was graduating, and I mean, it was like I don't hundreds of hours
Oh,
of work. I was
yes.
on the committee. It was massive. It's for 650
Yeah.
kids. It was massive, and some of the women who I did it with the first time were doing it a second time because our younger kids happened to be the same age. And it was super fun. It was a really rewarding thing to be involved in, but they were really surprised that I didn't want to do it again.
Yeah.
And I just was pretty honest. I said, that is a massive time commitment. I
Uh,
loved it. I need to be doing other things. I just cannot
I
do
love
it
it.
again. You
Ah,
know, and some of them were like, and you get the like, and some of them, you know, they have full-time jobs, and one of the women has 4 kids and a full-time job, and she does it still,
yep.
and she's just sort of like, well, I have a full-time job, well, I blah blah blah,
Yeah.
you know,
So interesting.
and I just, I'm like, that's amazing for you,
Yeah.
but you know, we all have different energy levels,
Yep.
also different things that fulfill us. So this looks different for different
That's
people,
right.
right? I think this is where it's so important to really look at yourself, what
Mm-hmm.
makes you happy, and what you can manage and handle. We have
Yep.
different thresholds for stress,
Yep.
right? We all work
Yeah.
differently, and so you can't. Yeah. So anyway,
I love
so
that.
I try to be honest also because I want to say I'm choosing this,
Yep.
you know, and ideally in an ideal world, I'd love to have the time and energy to do that as well, but I don't.
And I think I love what you said about, sometimes now you do a little bit of gardening, and I'm going to add on without knowing if this is true, but I imagine that it is. It's all about choice. It's like the things
Totally.
that we take on that nobody ever asked us to. We just somehow took on, and then they became part of what we do. They became part of our
Mm-hmm.
resume, and then there's an expectation that we had that we were going to do it, and then also an expectation of other people, like your group of
Yeah.
friends, that you have taken on that responsibility. Now it is yours, and there's an expectation from everybody that you will continue doing it, and it completely takes choice out of the matter. And so
Mm-hmm.
I love what you said. You can dabble in gardening when you want to, when you choose to, when it brings you pleasure and it will be fun,
Right.
then you're right in there.
Totally.
um
Yeah.
and I think it's so interesting. I love what you said also about um, telling what happens when a woman in a group says, actually, I don't, I've got another project right now, or I just don't have the time and the energy that I want to spend on it. My
Mm-hmm.
interests lie elsewhere. It feels
Mm-hmm.
revolutionary, doesn't it? Like it feels like, and then the woman saying, well, I have a full-time job. It's this very interesting story of what it is to be a woman who is constantly in service to other people,
Right.
right? Well, wait,
Mm-hmm.
I'm in service at my work, I'm in service to my children, and I'm in service to my school, and this is what it is to be a woman. And like, how dare you let down that expectation of this is what we do? So
Right.
I like that you're being this little cheeky, naughty,
Mm.
attitude rebel in that group. So cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think you have to also remind yourself when you start that, oh, well, why can she do that and I can't? Because I'm choosing to exercise 4 times a week,
Yep.
right? Like that's really important to me and I prioritize it because I spend a lot of time cooking because I really, I don't so much enjoy it anymore. It's one of those things that it has become an obligation over 20 years,
Yep.
but I really value nutritious meals for myself
Yep.
and my family. So it's something that, although I'd rather be doing other things, it's something that I have decided is worth my time.
Got it.
And so, reminding yourself that this is an active choice because you have prioritized your new project, your exercise, like these things, and we don't have all the time in the world. And we can't do it all at the same time. So,
Yep.
5 years from now, 6 months from now, you might choose something different. 5 years from now, you might have time for some huge project that you'd love to be involved in that you just can't do right now.
Yeah.
And so reminding yourself also that because you're saying no now doesn't mean you can't do that thing in the future. It's just right now you're prioritizing other things instead.
Yep. And I have the image of other women in a group when one woman says, "Oh, actually, I'm not going to do it this year because I'm busy doing other things," or "I'm not going to do it this year because I just don't really want to," and the
Right.
other women being like, "Oh, we're allowed to say no,"
Yeah, exactly. Well,
right?
and that's why I said I think it serves people when you can be more
Yeah.
honest and say,
Yeah.
I've chosen these things and I know I'm recognizing my limits. I'm trying to be more healthy with recognizing what my limits are and not overwhelm myself. And then people are like, wait, you can do that?
Right. We're allowed to choose not
You
to.
set an example.
I was invited to this kind of secret Santa, and so at first I was a no, and then I thought, okay, well maybe this will be fun. Maybe it's one of those
Mm.
things that involves a little bit of work, but then I get to receive and give, and like maybe it's fine. And then I got the big email, which was like, okay, so you something like you have a number one and then a number two, and then you have to send it to you buy a gift
Oh
for number
boy.
one, but then you have to switch number two to number one, or you put your name there and then you have to send it to other people. And I was like, I'm out. I'm out. I'm so out. I can't do it. And I said I've been taking this course with this amazing woman, Kasha Urbaniak, on the Good Girl, and it's all about this awareness. Like where are we saying our
Mm,
automatic no's? Where are we
right.
seeing automatic obligations? Where are we losing choice because we're running on default? And I said my bad girl just wants to receive and not do anything in return. And like that's the
I love
truth
it.
of it. If it was
Right.
just something where I could just receive presents or maybe buy
Mm,
one, I'm so
right.
in. As soon as I have to do
Right.
more, right now, as you're saying, like my capacity, my interest right now is like
Yeah.
I only want to receive. I don't really want to do
Right.
anything for anybody
Right.
else. So,
Right.
yeah.
Totally. And honoring that goes back to what we started with, which is becoming your own best friend, right?
Yeah,
Honor, loving
that's
yourself,
right.
taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, I want you to be okay and enjoy Christmas
Yeah.
and feel some joy,
Yeah.
not be exhausted. Like,
Totally. Yeah.
how are we gonna do this?
Mhm.
And just yeah, coming back to that
Yeah.
all the time. That's great.
And you know what?
I'm glad you. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just jumping in with this also what our kids see us do. Like what is the
Mm,
message when our sons and when our daughters see us try to maintain this impossible standard of perfection and productivity, and that is
mm,
it is normal for mom, for example, to be constantly depleted, overwhelmed, and exhausted, and that's what it is to be a woman, or that's what it is to be
right.
a mother. So our daughters might look at how we're living. They do look at how we're living, be like, oh,
Hmm.
that's just what it is. And then
Right.
perhaps our sons look at how we're living, and then they think, oh, that's what a mother does, which
Right.
sets them
Right.
up.
Or what a wife does. Yeah.
That's right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
No, I agree. I say that to my kids. I say, well, our house will never be the tidiest, cleanest house you'll come across, and I'm kind of proud of that. And
yeah,
so they get that.
yeah,
They understand. I said, if the house was perfect all the time, guys, I would never do anything else.
yeah,
So I'm trying to help them understand what
yeah.
is realistic and also just prioritize, right? If that's what you love keeping your house
100%.
perfect and it gives you joy to do that every day,
Yeah.
tidying up and doing new little whatever, like that's
Yeah.
fabulous. Again, it's so
Yeah.
individual and it's figuring out what brings you joy, which actually brings me to number three.
Love it.
So that's another perfect segue.
Yeah.
So number three is figure out what to say yes to.
Yeah.
And I think that if we're saying yes to the right things, then that's sort of a yin and yang, and it helps us say no to other things.
Got it.
And I think this one is a process. Yeah, and I think this one is a process. So sometimes it's very clear to us what we'd much rather be spending time doing.
Yes.
You know, some of them aren't things that we can do right now. So I've started traveling more, which has been an incredible, not during COVID, but I had started traveling more, which is a huge passion for me and just makes me feel happy and alive.
Yeah.
But we can't always be jetting off on trips. So I think what this is figuring out, as we go through our day, the moments in our day and the things we do in our day that make us feel happy, so that bring out the positive emotions. So we all have things we have to do every day that are neutral. Like for me, unloading the dishwasher is neutral,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
don't hate it. I mean, I don't hate it. Of course, I don't love it. It's just something I do. I'll have a podcast on. It's fun.
Yeah.
There's other things I have to do that I really dislike, and I'll be doing them and feeling and they evoke very negative
Yeah.
emotions.
Yeah.
I start to feel very resentful.
Yeah.
Why am I the one doing
Yeah.
this again? Why is this still my life? Why is that? So you're like, whoa, those are the things that are like,
Yeah.
those are the negative ones.
Yeah.
There's the neutral ones, and then there's the things that make us feel happy.
Yeah.
And I think we all have a job to do to serve ourselves, which is figuring out, and this is in your everyday life with being at home, being with your children. Are there things that you do at home, moments that make you feel happy? How can you create more of those?
Yeah.
This idea actually comes from a guy named Marcus Buckingham, who does a lot of research on work, happiness at work.
Yeah.
And he calls them red threads, figuring out what those things are that bring us joy and pulling on them. And so rather than trying to create a balance, it's actually no, what you want to do is tilt yourself more towards these moments of joy.
Love
so
that.
I'm going to give you, yeah. And the idea is the more of them you can find and the more, so some of them are going to be big, like a whole day away at the spa, sure.
Yeah.
Right. The idea is what other ones can you find that you can integrate into your everyday life?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can have them every day. You don't have to wait until 3 months from now when you get to go away and do a spa day, because that's great, but that's not living joy.
Yeah, that's right.
Every day. And so I think that for a lot of us, this is a process. We don't automatically know. And maybe we're so out of touch with feeling that way and indulging in those things that we don't know what they are, or we don't have the habit of feeling it, doing it. Okay, so one for me has turned out to be working on my French.
So fun.
So I am a very mediocre French speaker, and for a long time it's been my goal and dream to work on my French, get better at my French. And I've taken lessons off and on over the years. So right now I'm in a weekly French group. What I realized is when I take 10 or 15 minutes just during the average day to just put music on and go, or not, and practice my French, it makes me feel amazing.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like I am moving towards a goal that I've had my whole life.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like I'm capable of learning something new. It makes me feel like I'm prioritizing myself enough to invest time in something that matters to me. And it makes me feel like I'm almost imagining myself, in Paris.
Yeah.
And having to speak to someone.
Yeah.
And like, one day I will do that.
Yeah.
One day I will do that. So it is bringing me closer to that dream and goal.
Yeah.
And so I can do that for 10 or 15 minutes and feel great after. I think this is challenging because one of the things that happens is we lose a lot of parts of ourselves, and we set a lot of parts of ourselves aside when we're busy taking care of everyone else.
That's right.
And so sometimes some of these dreams are, pretty sort of far in the past, and we've got to do some work to rediscover them again.
Yeah.
Try different things.
Yeah. Okay, two threads that I want to pull forward. One is there is a sense, how you come so alive with travel. And there's something about when a woman plugs into the things that make her feel most herself, and most alive. Like that's for me what the French does. It's like this image of you and you're traveling in Paris and you're wearing the beautiful dress and you're like speaking to the waiter in French, and like it's really plugs you into all the things that turn you on, right? Which is so great.
Totally. Yes. And it feels like the me I was meant to be.
Right, exactly. You're like, this is actually who I am. Right.
I am supposed to, right.
Yeah, that's right.
That's supposed to be my life.
And there's also something that is interesting about the way we envision what is possible. And this is something that I've also been thinking about during this 4-week course. For example, there's an exercise where you just talk about what you want, and you do it in a partner, and you would say, start it off, what do you want? And I would say, I want a cup of coffee. And you would say, thank you. What do you want? I want, boom. And I might go from, I want a cup of coffee to, I want to spend 3 months out of every year traveling. So there's this thing that happens in our brain, which is like, because I don't think that's possible, I won't say it as a want. So in fact, my wants become very small. And there's something about the practice of saying yes, like saying yes to the French lessons, because yes, you believe it's possible and certain, in fact, that you will be in Paris at some point. So it's like a very fleshy, juicy discussion about what we allow ourselves to imagine our lives could be. And if we are interested in breaking our own expectations of how we are in these roles, and if we are interested in breaking the way that we think we have to be, then we can, our imagination can be limitless, and we can say yes to limitless things, right? And not, like, sometimes we can become our own jailers through no fault of our own, but just have this very limited view of what is possible to say yes to, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we cut ourselves off from some of those things because we feel we don't want to be heartbroken because we just don't think they're possible,
Yeah.
right? Why
Yeah.
bother dreaming about something that is never going to happen?
Totally.
It's just heartbreak waiting to happen.
Yes, that's right.
So yeah, you have to be brave to let yourself dream bigger dreams again.
Yeah.
And that is also something that is a classic midlife thing, right? You can return to dreams that you may have set aside when you were just really busy with a family.
Yeah.
And I think we can connect, going back to there's a time and place for everything.
Yeah.
I think we can connect some of our bigger dreams that we may not be able to. Oh.
Yep. Are you okay?
Are you
good?
There?
Yep. Are you good, Susan? Can you hear me?
Oh, hang on a second. What's going on? Can you hear that?
Nope, I just hear you.
I'm hearing, hang on one second.
Yeah.
I'm hearing, I don't know why. I was just hearing some feedback that was like our conversation a minute ago.
Ooh, fascinating. We're in a time warp. Is it all back to normal?
Can you hear, are you hearing feedback?
No.
Okay. All right. I'm going to ignore that and just talk.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. It's very strange. It's not, yeah, I'm just going to fix this. Sorry.
And while you're doing that, can I just jump in with the thought?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So say my dream is to, like, I want to go to Africa, for like some African countries for 6 months. So of course I think that, and I have young kids, and like my brain is like, don't even dream that because it's not even possible. So like you said, don't break your heart, don't waste your time and energy because it feels like it's just impossible. So while I'm cultivating the impossible dream, all these little things I could be, I can find these small ways to be in the pleasure of that dream without the fullness happening right now, or even whether it happens at all, because in fact, we don't know what the future holds. So I love, you're taking your French lessons, right? So maybe I start reading books of authors from Nigeria, for example. And it's like, just, it's my way that I can do right now, enjoying the juiciness of my desire and keeping it alive. It's like I'm tending to the fire of the dream. So I think there's like, as you said, there's this practice to like, how do I have these impossible dreams which keep me alive and fill me up with so much juice, and find these little ways to keep that fire burning.
Absolutely. I think that's it. Figuring out what you can do now that will give you a little bit of that feeling, that have a connection to
Yeah,
something that you're hoping for, a dream that you have for the future when you have more time or yeah. And so I think that we don't have to be doing those big, huge things to get those happy, joyful feelings,
yeah,
that we are living sort of who we are and living
yeah,
in alignment with the things that make us happy and things that matter to
yeah,
us. So that can require a little bit of creativity,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Figuring out, I love that idea of reading
yeah,
an author from a country that you're interested in, or
yeah,
because and like you said, you don't know, you may change enough that when it comes time to take a trip to wherever, Nigeria is not at the top of your list, and that's okay because it's a journey. But the
mm-hmm.
important thing is what you're doing now that makes you feel like you are living in alignment with who you are and what matters to you and the things that bring you joy.
Yeah. And you're feeding,
Yeah,
the woman, right? You're finding
yeah,
all of these ways to feed the woman, not the wife,
right,
not the mother, not the daughter, not the friend, not the
right,
daughter-in-law, the woman. So I love that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, number 4.
Okay, so number 4 is sort of encompasses all of these. It's recognizing our own power to change things and
Mm,
not waiting for someone else to change.
big one.
So I think, with a family, we all recognize that we're going to be in situations where things happen that are outside of our control, right? We have obligations, we have a partner, we have children. We don't have to give away our ability to make changes in our life to them. We don't have to wait for them to change, for
Yeah,
us to change.
right.
That
Yes.
is not to say that, there may not be conversations that need to happen. I think that can be part of it for sure and is important to be clear on what you're doing and why and what you want. But you don't need their permission or change to make your own changes.
Yes. I think this is huge. So I have a podcast called Holding the Fire of Motherhood. So I've done about
I
16
know.
episodes. And one of them, the title is Waiting to be Rescued. And it's the one that's had the most listens. And there is something about, needing to claim, needing to almost find this certainty in yourself and the fierceness in yourself before that being the first step, before
Yeah.
anybody else has to believe it. Sometimes we can be waiting, as you said, for somebody else to give us permission, or for somebody else to approve of where we want to go or what we want to do. Um, and then we're in stalemate for
Right.
years or decades, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
because that person never changed, that's why we didn't, right? And then what
Right.
a tragedy of a life that is. Um, so I think there is a moment, and I feel like your dance with midlife was like a moment where you're like, oh, actually nobody's coming to rescue me. I can't wait for other people to change in order for me to do what I want to do. It's actually
Yeah.
all up to me, which is both super infuriating and disappointing and annoying and awesome and beautiful.
Right, right. And when you change, probably other things will change as
Yeah.
well. And so it's impossible to know exactly how that will all play out. And I think it's a process, which is fine. But the important thing is that you realize you have the power to make probably many more significant changes than you realize.
Yeah. And let me ask you, what do you notice? So, say you started to make all of your changes. It was like this internal storm that started, right? What would you say are the things that you noticed without even before you said anything or asked anything or had those conversations? what shifted in other people around you just because you had a shift?
Yeah, I think, well, I told you my husband started gardening.
Yeah, yeah,
I think people will, when there's a vacuum of things that you're not necessarily doing, sometimes other people will step up and start doing them.
yeah,
Um, and I think, when we are happier, everyone around us feels that energy as well. And
yeah,
I think there's just a sort of a more harmonious environment for all of
yeah,
us.
yeah,
And so I think that is really noticeable.
yeah.
Um, and people expect you to say no more. The more you do it, the more you don't get the double take when you
Right.
say, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
Right. Like I felt guilty even on nights where I was just like, oh, I'm just too tired to make dinner. I just am too tired to make dinner. I would say that occasionally, but rarely.
yeah. Not every time you
Um,
wanted to.
no,
Yeah,
exactly. And so nobody thinks anything of it now. And it's like, let's eat something from the freezer. Of course, it's a little easier for me because my kids are older.
yeah,
And my older son actually loves cooking. So, you can get to a point where you have a 20-year-old making you a gourmet dinner.
that's nice.
It's, things do not stay the same.
Yeah,
So, you have you have that to look forward to. But yeah, I think it's really incredible to see all the small ways that things change that are really subtle, but just make everyone feel like it just feels more sort of harmonious
yeah,
and relaxed.
yeah. I think that I don't think, I know that a woman who is lit up, just like every community that she goes in can feel
Yeah.
that glow from her. It transforms a home life. It transforms school council. It transforms like the committees, the friends of group, the workplace, everything. And I also know I don't know from personal experience, like when I am not good, I have an energy that drags down my family and drags down my
Yeah.
household. And when I am good, it's like magic pixie dust on everyone around me. So I think an interesting conversation around that is connected to number 4, which is
Yeah.
just realizing our power. Sometimes we don't realize the power that we have, not just for our own lives, but to affect the spaces that we're in, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
love
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Are we ready for number 5?
Let's do it. Number 5.
Okay, so the last one is recognize that this is a process and you may not have all the answers right
Mm-hmm.
away, and it may take some trial and error to figure out new ways to do things, right?
Yeah,
Like we were talking about with the mental shift. That doesn't happen automatically, it takes practice.
yeah,
Figuring out what things bring you joy is going to be a little bit of a process. Figuring out how better to be an advocate for yourself there may be some trial and error. And it's okay that it's not all perfect right away.
yeah,
It's like getting into anything, trying to incorporate any new thing in your life. I think it takes practice, and it's a journey.
yeah,
The important thing is that you're on the journey,
yeah,
and also recognizing there's going to be uncomfortable points, because anytime you're trying to do something new, and there may be some pushback from people around you. You may have to have some difficult discussions with your spouse. We were talking about that last time.
yeah,
It's okay to rock the boat
yeah,
a little.
yeah,
A little boat rocking is actually good,
yeah,
and that's how change happens. So deciding you're going to do this, and that it's okay that it's not all going to be perfect and make sense
yeah.
right away.
That's right.
But becoming your own best friend is sort of the starting point. And as long as you're committed to trying new things and making small changes, because I really don't think these have to be huge, monumental changes
Mm-hmm.
to have a really positive impact in our life.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I love that. And I would say also that small changes build up into the big things, right?
Yeah.
So it's, when you don't feel like you want to cook dinner, you start saying, actually, I'm not going to cook dinner tonight. Like you guys can have sandwiches and I'll just have, whatever. And I'm not actually interested in doing gardening anymore. It's like small little things. And then 2 or 3 years down the line, you're like, oh, I'm actually going away for 3 weeks with my friends on a trip. But you had to work your way to get there because it's the
Right.
practice, right? And I also wanted to say, yeah, I love that idea of being compassionate and not expecting perfection. And it made me think of your number one, which is noticing thought patterns, noticing negative thought patterns and catching them. So I was
Yeah.
imagining something like, I had that big conversation with my partner and I said I didn't want to do school lunches anymore. And there was resistance and, it's never going to change. It's never going to work. Like, I'll just give up. See, I told you so. And catching that and being like, okay, what was so amazing was that you said something. Like you did do something. This is amazing. This is a celebration. You're doing it. You're living it. And don't worry that that first conversation that you had didn't work out exactly. It's the beginning of the conversation. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing, right? The journey is for everyone. Like the journey is with you in your marriage or your partnership. The journey is with you and your kids. It's like not one conversation, it's years of conversations. It's
Right.
right. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to know exactly where it will lead you and what all of the sort of positive cascading effects are.
Yeah.
But we know there will be some, and we know that you will feel more empowered, and optimistic, and like you're worthy because you're speaking up and you're prioritizing what you want. All of those things are positive, even if you don't always get the immediate outcome that you're hoping, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
And I just kind of want to maybe end with this idea. And I've thought it a few times listening to you, where I feel like I just want to stand up and get on a tabletop or a mountaintop and just shout out on behalf of all the women serving everybody else that it is our life. Like we get to have our own life in this. It doesn't, the idea that we have a life up until that is our own, up until the moment that we get married and have kids is such bullshit. In fact, it all is our life still. It gets to be our life. And I just feel really kind of fierce about that idea because I think the opposite is the message that we get, right? Like you can have when you're single, it's, you can do what you want, you can have that great life. And logistically, there's some things about that are true, but I would also argue that more about that idea is not true than it is true. Like we still can have our own life and I want to give everybody listening permission that this is our life too. We are not obligated to give our life, our energy and our attention, our dreams to everybody else. That does not have to be the game plan.
Absolutely. I love that. And I think the important thing with regards to that is recognizing this is not an either or, right? It's not like, well, it was just all about me and now I have a family. They always are going to come first because I'm a caretaker, I'm a mom. It's not like you don't have to, not one of those things has to be true.
Yeah.
Both can be true, which is you are your own special, unique, wonderful person who deserves care and nourishment and joy.
Yeah.
Completely separate from your family. And you are a mom, a partner, a caregiver who wants to love and nurture those people. And those things are not either or, they can exist together.
Yeah.
And it's our job to figure out
How?
How.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I love it. Susan, I feel like we could talk for another few hours because
I
there's so
know.
much to say. And maybe we'll do
Yeah.
this again. This is our part 2.
Yes. Perhaps a part 3.
Yeah, I love it.
Right.
And thank you so much. I always get so much from our conversations, and I love.
I do as well.
Yeah, it's just it's healthy, it's heart nourishing, it's like supportive, it's inspiring, it's motivating, it's all the good stuff.
It's awesome. It's a journey. Well, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Have a wonderful holiday.
Yes.
It's great talking to you.
You too. And this is good night, but not goodbye.
Yes, exactly. Until next time.
Until next time. Adieu.
Okay. Adieu. Take care, Sophie.
Bye,
Thank
Susan.
you.